Hey there, I'm back with another video. Okay, so I just got home about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and so I'm back in my room about to go crazy, and I decided to make this video so I can kind of, lessen the pressure that's building up in my head because I feel like I want to scream. Okay, I really do. I feel like I want to scream. I just feel like today was a really inactive or, not a very productive day. I'm self-driven, okay? And because I'm self-driven, is I'm somebody who manages my own time. I don't need people directing me. I know how to direct myself. And I wake up with this burning need to feel a sense of accomplishment. I kid you not. Okay. So, I wanted to go to the library today, and I know that I have been suckered into forgetting that there's times when the library is closed on Monday, right? So this is the second time I've done this. And, but whatever. Okay. I now understand the schedule of the library. So I will not do that again. But I was just kind of like hanging out. I made a quick video and then I posted it. Now, when I get up in the morning, I check my color app. Now, there's days where I, decide what I want to wear based on how I'm feeling or whatever. But if I don't have anything in mind, I'm like, okay, I could use a little extra luck today. So I checked this color app, and I will put the link in the description box if you want to check it out. Today's color was orange. So I decided to wear this orange top, and I kept thinking, okay, I don't really know what to pair it with. Now, mind you, I'm thinking about the seasons. Okay, the season is springtime, right? And I already talked to everybody about my spring colors. Why I don't really wear like a lot of pastels and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna wear this orange. What am I gonna wear with it? I'm tired of wearing jeans. And I remember showing my corduroy pants in one of my videos just recently. That same video I'm talking about. So I decided to wear these brown corduroys, right? Now, I always try to like picture things inside my mind, like, because life is boring. Okay, life to me is extremely boring. So there's times where I have to sit here and play fantasy games in my mind to give myself a little bit more incentive to even exist on this planet. Okay, yes, I hate life here on this planet that much. Okay, so today I was like, okay, so what do I look like? And I kept thinking, okay, this could be the mountain, right? And then here I'm the sun coming out over the mountain. What do you think? Kind of bland, right? But I kept thinking, I could also add a little bird or something, like the bird's kind of like flying towards the sun and put it on as a pin. You just got to use your imagination to keep you going sometimes, okay? And this is something I do a lot, right? I also sometimes do dress magically if I'm trying to, generate a certain feeling, a certain energy. I make good use of clothes. Okay, clothes are my thing. Okay, so let's talk about today my waste of time. I realize there's times where I find it difficult to feel completely a complete burst of energy in my head, and it is important for me to feel this way. This is one of the reasons why there's times where I rearrange my room, or there's times where I change like a color theme, right? Because there's times where you can just become stagnant. I am stagnant right now, and I'm going to blame, of course, that dumb asshole Rex Silver. Every time I'm pissed off, I'm going to bring up his shit, right? I was pissed off today, right? I was pissed off while I was sitting there on the lawn at the library, right? So, I understand that because of his foolish behavior and because he does not understand aspects of law, even though it was already explained to him, and whether he knew it or not, the dude's guilty, and I don't really give a shit, okay? So I'm still frustrated because I'm still at home. I'm still trying to deal with my time. I'm still wanting to pay my bills. I want to be self-sufficient as I should be. Okay. And he always wanted to, have these people thinking that these certain things exist and has prevented me from living my life, which he should have never done. Right. So I understand a lot of people do not understand things like employment law. Okay. I think, he was trying to prevent me from finding a job because I was single. We all know why I'm single. Okay, if you don't know by now why I'm single, you're either something's wrong here. I don't know what else to tell you. I've made over 1,600 videos talking about my need for safety and my right. I feel angry that somebody would even want me to explain that. Like, I shouldn't even have to explain that it's nobody's business. Do you understand? When it comes to employment, it should not be anybody's business. Women need work for several reasons. Some to protect themselves, to keep themselves sheltered, to keep themselves protected from the one who's after them. I mean, I feel like I was dealing with a bunch of really backwards people in this whole situation. It's like, how is it that you can't understand that? But to me, this is one of the reasons why I do think when you talk about when people talk about narcissism, I know not to bring in spiritual talk when it comes to things that relate to work, okay? But in my mind, when I'm thinking to myself, Narcissism to me is like, spiritually, uh, like the earthly manifestation of demons. To me, it is. Okay, like it's somebody thinking about themselves, their agenda so much, they're so focused on it that they forget or completely disregard the fact that you're an older woman, that you've been abused, that you need to protect yourself, that you do not want to be associated with this person. I would have never been associated with Rex Laverne. Never. Never. By choice, never. You know what I mean? You know he'd have to traffic you and put you in some sort of covert operation and make sure that that shit's like really private. So that, because if somebody came out and told me that this man was doing what he was doing, he knew good and well I would not have put up with it. I would have confronted him just like I confronted stupid Steve Murray, and when he had that stupid look on his face. I confronted Steve Murray several times. And yes, this is one of my rant videos. Please put up with it, okay? I dealt with a lot of mental trauma. So, anyway. Wasted time at the library, but that was okay because I did relax a little bit in the sun, and it was a beautiful day. Okay, it was a very beautiful day. So anyway, as I'm, heading home, I decided to take a step. I sit on the steps sometimes of the Catholic Church. Okay, it's like this little administrative office, and then on the side there's like this little thing of steps. Okay, and it's a very quiet, serene place. It gives me a chance to kind of catch my breath. And as I'm sitting here, I get this phone call, and it's from like an employment agency. Okay, I'm going to make this very clear. As a matter of fact, I'm going to kind of put this in the title. This, no offense to her. The reason why I apply to multiple jobs, and even sometimes jobs I don't even give a shit about, like the employment agencies, is because it's out of habit. Like, I'm so used to reporting things to the EDD because I've been like, off from work and then I go on unemployment. It's required for me to keep track of my employment. That sometimes I feel like in my mind, I automatically have a quota as to how many jobs I'm going to apply to if I haven't been looking for a job for very long. So I did apply to this one employment agency, and the girl was very polite. Okay, it's not her fault or anything. But here's the thing. I am not going to take a job like a receptionist. I'm not taking a receptionist job, and I'm not going to work in a dispatch job. Okay, and the reason why I say this is because, I feel as though when I was dealing with the human trafficking, they were slowly but surely putting me in jobs that were less and underneath my skill ability because it made them feel comfortable. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand, it's unfortunate that sometimes, you have to take jobs that you really don't feel that gung-ho about. Okay, and I also understand that these people were racist and they felt offended because I've got darker skin than them and whatever. Okay, but the fact is, it's like I when I was working over at Rex Laverne, one thing I didn't like is when he wanted me to deal with calling customers, updating their agreements and shit. I don't do that shit. Okay, now I've done it a few times. I did it, and it was one of my things. And most of the time, it was a girl who worked alongside me who handled that stuff. I don't want to do that. Okay, that's not my forte. And it really, when you think about it, the reason why you have a resume is because you want to get hired for those skills. Okay, I don't want to deal with dispatch. I don't want to deal with calling people, being a receptionist. So the only time I really call customers is when I'm calling and collecting on their account. That's what I'm used to doing. Okay, I don't like dealing with schedules. I don't like dealing with any of that stuff. Okay, this is the biggest issue when it comes to employment manipulation. So, when I was talking to the girl, she was like, "Yeah, you were an general office clerk at your last position. I'm taking that title off my resume." Okay, because I'm actually an accounting person. I did the accounting over there. Okay, and I've always been in accounting. But see, Rex Laverne was a human trafficker, and he had an agenda to try to reduce people and their quality of life because he was highly influenced by this whole thing relating to Mormonism. Okay, just because a woman is single, I have the legal right to work. I have the legal right to take care of myself, okay? And just because I'm a single woman does not mean that I'm supposed to get demoted or only make a certain amount of money. That's illegal. That's the reason why these things are put in place, is because it protects our right from living a life or having a dream or having an income or being able to take care of ourselves, okay? If just because a woman is single, okay, if she has the ability, the skills, even I'm going to include education in this case, even though I don't really see any point that most people really are as educated as they say they are, okay, whatever. But I'm going to say, let's just say, for example, she's this whole package person. She's been into law her entire life. She makes like a 6-figure income or whatever, right? And she ends up getting divorced, and now she's single. She has every right to continue her career. You know what I mean? Well, see, a lot of times when you're dealing with trafficking, you have people with their own special agendas. Sometimes it's a man who might have helped his wife get that job or start her career. And so because this is an absurd thing to bring up into the court system because it doesn't relate to divorce, okay? You can't sit here and talk about your job that this person, because your job is not supposed to be, the reason why it's written into law about being protected about your marriage, because your marriage is not have, it has anything to do with your job. That's why. Okay, you're not supposed to get hired because you're married. You're not supposed to get fired because you're married. You're not getting evaluated because you're married. None of those things relating to your marital status has anything to do with your job. So if this woman has always been a lawyer, okay, and now she's divorced and she suddenly can't seem to find any jobs within her, field or whatever, chances are it has something to do with human trafficking or some sort of illegal activity. Okay, her skills are her skills. Okay, and it's not open to anything debatable within the divorce court. Okay, but we have these kangaroo courts that, sometimes lean a little bit too much on religious ideas and thinking. See, and this is my biggest frustration because, like, when you understand the law and how it's supposed to be applied, you get put in, like, what I call, this to me is the pit of hell. It's the pit of hell. Dealing with Rex Laverne, he deserved to die. I love saying that over and over and over again. He deserved to fucking die. Anyway, the girl was very polite, but I wanted her to understand. I did mention to her that I was, in the past, I've worked better jobs. I have a better skill set. Okay, I asked her, did she have a copy of my resume? And I think she has the same resume that I just recently uploaded. Okay, I do not need to accept a job that does not pay me the way that I'm supposed to get paid, and that's also beneath my skill level. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Okay, and they know it. So it's like, this is why I resent. And she probably called me. She could have been calling me back because I did apply. Okay, but I think I applied out of, me feeling like this need to create some sort of quota. Okay. No offense to this girl, and she was very polite and everything. No offense to this girl, but really, I do not like dealing with agencies. And the reason why I don't like dealing with agencies is because I don't like third-party anything. In my life, to me, there's business and there's you. There's you and the consumer or whatever. It's two parties. That's my mind. That's my mind model. That's my business model. If I was to have a business, there would be no third party, nothing. I don't do third parties. As a matter of fact, I really feel as though third party idealism weakens the economy. I have such, it doesn't weaken the economy, but because people are trying to make money off of other people's whatever. No offense to the girl, she's just doing her job. Okay. But, I have my own views on how businesses should be set up and whatever. But the thing is, it's not her fault that she called me. She could have been very helpful, okay? But just to let people know, I don't do receptionist work. I'm a dispatcher, okay? This is the kind of work that I do. These are my skill sets, and I get tired of people. And like I said, I don't know why she called me. She could have been calling me because she's a fan of mine. Apparently, I do have this little cult group of people who seem to be interested in my story. That's cool too. She could have been doing that. Or she could just really thought that she wanted to fit me for a job and I accidentally applied to a reception. I would never take a receptionist job. Okay, unless, of course, I really, 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 really had to. But I understand receptionist jobs aren't going to sit here and pay me what I need to keep a roof over my head independently without my son's help. Okay, so I have to think, I think about what I do and what I need in order to make a living. And see, I think about these things. I think about my future, just like I knew that when I was 54 years old, I needed to do something when I was over at Murray Family Farms, but I had got dealt with being stuck in the web of Rex Laverne, who, by the way, I'm glad is dead. Very glad he's dead. You know what I mean? And I hope to God people who are like him do not live. Okay? Because they're a serious problem. Now, why am I so upset? Because I really want to feel a sense of accomplishment. This is who I am. Okay, I am a workhorse. That's who I am by choice. I don't need people trying to direct me and tell me how to do it. I know how to do it, and when I do it well. Okay, like I know how to schedule. I schedule based off of number one, what gets done. I know how to prioritize. I know how to work. To me, if you don't know, if you hire somebody and they have no organizational skills, you got to tell them how to organize someone. They don't fucking need to have a job in the first place. Okay, you need to have somebody who's a professional, who's got their shit together when they get there. They already have their skill sets, and that's why you hired them in the first place. You got to sit there and tell me, okay, at 10 o'clock you need to do this. I'm so surprised by some of the people that I've had to work with in the past. Serious, okay? That's all I need to say about that. But anyway, Yes, legally, women have the right to get on with their lives. They have the right to, set certain ideas, or try to aim for the kind of work that they want. Now, am I sitting here trying to be a CEO or anything like? No, I'm not. I'm not. Okay, but I do think, and I'm not someone who's hung up on titles. Okay, I am not hung up on titles. Okay, but I understand that there was a concerted effort by people like Rex Laverne who just wanted to have a certain pecking order, and he was using religion and these little underground things to do it. And I'm saying I'm aware of it, so do not offer me that shit anymore. Okay? It's like I did not deserve to be put through this. Like, and I'm so angry because, like, this morning, like I said, I was really pissed off. Like, I was thinking about how this idiot, who I'm glad who's dead, okay, ruined my life. 12 years out of my life that I cannot get back. Okay? When I was in my 40s, I was still young in my mind. Like, I still had more energy. I still had, and I still have energy. But it's the point. It's like 12 years off my life. Okay? And aside from that, the group that he was associated with, the Mormons and all these, like, the Mormons and Nazi offshoots and all these other people were, like, wrecking my life already. Okay? And then now I'm like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? I am aware. And I'm telling you how you need to correct your stuff. I mean, actually even trying to tell you guys how you should be rebuilding your society, which you screwed up. Okay? I can't even believe what you actually tried to do to your women. It's just, it's amazing. It's like, it just mind blows me. Like, it just blows my mind that somebody would actually do that. It's not a well thought out process. It's not a well thought out process. Okay? They would turn against you. They would. Okay? And they would probably end up killing you all. And you guys would deserve it. Okay? So, anyway. And no offense to white men, because, there's some white men that I think are cool, and that's not the issue. It's the issue of understanding, people need to put people in the correct spots. In order for businesses to improve, to have vision, to actually carry through with the vision. Most of the companies that I've worked with, they would just sit around and not really accomplish anything. And I'm just like, oh my God, time's a ticking. I need to retire. Am I the only person that has any drive? Sometimes I wonder. You know what I mean? Am I the only person who even thought about my retirement? I wonder about that. Because some people, the way people get placed into jobs and stuff, it just like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Why somebody brought me back after 1956? What a joke. What a freaking joke. I fucking hate this place. I hate it. Like, you just don't even know. It makes me sick to my stomach. Anyway, what else do I want to say? Yeah, so it's me and my imagination that's basically, helping me get through life. And I also want to reiterate, I have nothing against the girl who called me. It's just that, and this is kind of an indirect message to my soul tribe, who I know is listening in. It's no offense or anything. Perhaps you guys don't really understand matching people, or understanding what people need as far as their skill level. Okay, when people are set in jobs that are beneath them, that right there is a demoralizing situation. Okay. And I understand that this religion to me, and I'm sorry, no offense to the Mormons, okay, but do I believe that you guys have allowed yourself to be influenced by archonic energy and archonic thinking? Yes. The very fact that you created or allowed this bullying operation, participated in it in the way that you did for so long, tells me that there was some sort of straight up demonic influence that was involved in it. Okay. I think the world needs to get away from the demonic. And this is what I'm talking about. I had mentioned the new earth and stuff. And as far as how people could live, the possibility of people living in a more civilized manner. Not just for one person's cause, but for everybody. You know what I mean? But like I said, I understand that not everybody can live on the earth. Because there's plenty of wicked people. You know what I mean? And who's to say, this seems like it's one of those times where people need to get cold. You know what I mean? People need to get taken out of society because they are absolutely of no value. Seriously. You know what I mean? People who like to take advantage of other people, people who are part of human slavery, this sort of stuff, this is supposed to be done away with. So people can live happy, joyful lives, according to the Bible. Okay, And like I said, I understand that the Bible was very much orchestrated at some point. You know what I mean? These people, bloodline targeting, the use of clones, that whole thing, And I've been thinking a lot about that too, and I'm going to be writing a lot about that in this upcoming newsletter. Right now it's just me being frustrated. It's frustrated because I'm not happy with the result of what this group has done to my life illegally. Okay. I have mentioned before that, I find it very upsetting that I am living with my son. And don't get me wrong, I love my son more than anything in this world. Okay. He is my family. That's my family, my blood. Okay. I'm proud of my son. I love my son. But I know as a 31-year-old, I would not want to be stuck with my mom. And I bless his little heart that he is willing to help me out. And because that's what families do, they help each other out. You know what I mean? And I would do the same thing for him, okay? But it's the fact that, in order for people to get the best life, the most fulfilling life, they need to work. And my desire as a parent is for my son to have the things that he wanted to have in life. Seriously, okay? And I got sucked up, and a lot of other women got sucked up into this, world domination agenda. And now, not only did I suffer when I was growing up and young, and now my hair is gray. Like I said, I looked at my son. I really looked at my son. My son's got gray hair. And I'm like, you fucked my shit up and you made my son suffer. I can't tell you how angry I am. So angry about this whole thing. You know what I mean? Because I think every parent, if you really love your kid, and this is what bothers me about society and how I see things. It's like, your children, your family is your foundation. You should want everything that you never had. If you never accomplished anything, and if your child is able to accomplish that, then that's a blessing. That's the best form of love you can ever give somebody. Seriously. Okay? And you should love your family that way. Okay? And I understand a lot of people, we have a throwaway society. People, like I just mentioned, when I was younger and I was on welfare for a while, I remember living in neighborhoods that were not so, they were horrible, okay? Where a lot of other people were on welfare. I was on welfare because I needed to get a little help, okay? Some people were on welfare because that was their gig. That's how they got by. And they would shock me with sometimes with some of the things that they talk about. They would talk about, okay, if you have another kid, then you can get this much, and you can get this much in cash. They had the whole shit planned out. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. I was always the one who tried to find a job, got a job, And because I was the only person who would have a job, and most times where I would live in certain areas when I was younger, everybody would come and freeload off Moran, But anyway, I've always, did the best I could to take care of myself. I've never wanted to be a burden on society. I never want to be a burden on my son. Seriously. Because I know, when I was younger, there were so many things I never got to do. Never got to do. You know what I mean? And, like, go to the prom. I didn't get to go to the prom because I was bullied out of school. You know what I mean? And there's so many things that people take for granted that I never had. And you hope to God, like if you were abused when you were younger, you hope to God, or you were bullied in school, you hope to God that never happens to your kid. You know what I mean? So I don't like any of this screwed up crap that happened in my life, my son being affected by. That angers me. So, and now I'm just, I'm frustrated. Okay, and I just needed to talk about it. And, I understand, it seems as though, the people who were bullying me, people like Rex Laverne and his little entourage, they seem archonic to me because they love misery. They feel so good about themselves. And that's sick. That is something that you would associate with a demon. That's demonic. You know what I mean? And I'm here to tell people and identify what is demonic. When you feel something drains you, when you feel like you're not really happy, you're not vibrating, you're not able to focus, you're not feeling secure or balanced, okay? The goal in life is to feel balanced in chaos, okay? We're here on hell. I truly do believe that this is hell. It is hell, okay? But the goal is to find balance and joy among this, and to be able to identify what is deceptive. That's the spiritual goal. That's the spiritual battle that we live in. Okay. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of things, and I'm not saying that the Mormon church is now, maybe the Mormon church seems to be repentant, because it seems like they're trying to take on a different positive role. I saw some people, I don't like seeing Mormon people, and it's not because I'm trying to hate on them, it's a trigger. it's a trigger. Okay. I don't want to see people running around with their name tags and stuff. And I know they're going to run around. There's going to be times where I bump into them. I will go the other way. Okay. And it's not out of hatred. It really does remind me of somebody bullying my father to the point of where he ended up dead. It makes me think about, me missing out years of my life because, they decided to bring me back because they wanted to beat me. They wanted to one up me. Instead of letting me go in 1956, they just had to bring this shit up one more time. And I had to go through all of this for nothing. To live in a substandard, manner, or just, and the reason why I say that is because for 54 years old, as someone as bright as me, I should have more. I deserve more. And they know it. Okay? So I am going to be talking about employment laws and stuff. There's so many things I want to do, right? And it's important for me to communicate that information, even though that information should be widely distributed. I had mentioned earlier about why is it that Mormons had I'm going to say had perhaps maybe a distorted view of the United States government. How is it they might have, there's several scenarios. They may have had the same information or had access to the same information. I would say the First Amendment is pretty well circulated. Okay. But why, maybe does a religion have a certain slant to things like history and civics? Okay. Also, when it comes to business administration, what makes them think that, removing the DEI thing, to me, it was a deliberate attempt. To me, that was a deliberate attempt to create some sort of genocide. Although those protective laws are still on the books. So just by removing the DEI did not affect the law. Okay, it's just that they're letting you know that they don't want you there. That includes minorities and women, and it also includes the handicapped, because they probably think handicapped people deserve to die. Just like the Nazi, it seems very Nazi mentality. Very eugenics type driven. And don't get me wrong, I do have respect to some forms of eugenics. I do. I have respect for some forms of eugenics, okay? I do believe that people should put a good concerted effort and thought process into who they decide to bring into this earth. Why? Because the idea is of having the best quality of life that you can have, right? And being the best kind of person that you can. That's important. Okay, so when it comes to their whole cloning operation, bringing people back, and I'm including white people in this, okay? Bringing people back, they need to, if you're trying to make sure that your race is going to be happy, okay, and that really is the goal. Okay, because if you're not happy and content, vibrating at a certain level, your life really isn't worth anything. Okay, so the point is to bring the best. If I'm deliberately bringing a person in this plane, I would try to find somebody who doesn't have a lot of diseases in their family, somebody who has intelligence. Somebody who has, I would like to have some nice looks in my family. If I was going to deliberately create somebody, I would, okay, purposely make somebody. I would want to make sure that they were self-sufficient, very strong type character people. And if I had the ability to create that and make it so that these people had the kind of traits where they were going to be able to stand strong in life, of course I would, okay? But that doesn't mean that I want to eliminate everybody else. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? I understand eugenics to a certain degree because it makes sense. You know what I mean? Why would you purposely bring somebody onto Earth when they don't have anything going for them? That doesn't make any sense. Knowing how much this place sucks. You know what I mean? Why would you do that? Anyway. If I don't say it, I'm just going to sit here and have it all bottled up inside me. And this is how I feel, though. It is how I feel. You know what I mean? I am somebody who feels absolutely nothing for what is around me. Except for what's in my head, what I create in my own little world. That is the truth. You know what I mean? And I cannot help it. But it's a coping mechanism. And if it wasn't for those coping mechanisms, I wouldn't survive. So people can actually learn a lot from me. Because I think I dealt with a lot. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video, and I just might make this day a video making day because I really don't feel like I'm going to be productive here. Okay, I just don't feel any drive here in my house, at least not in this room. Okay, and my house is not really set up to really just get the full blow of all of the positive chi energy that I need to be flowing in my house right now to be motivated. That's how I am. I know what motivates me. I know my own mind. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. And I think a lot of people know it, but they're either boxed in or prevented from doing it. And that's very frustrating. And just like Rex Laverne wanted to box me in and do his stupid shit. I am so glad he's dead. That's my mantra. I'm glad Rex Laverne is dead. Anyway, I'm wrapping up this video. Take care. Bye-bye.